This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant. Available now online for you to learn at your own pace with a certificate available upon completion. Click the link in the show notes to access today for just €50. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 1 of a 5-part series that I have been waiting about 6 years to do. I want to introduce everyone to one of my dearest friends in the world. This is Shivaun Bromley. I've known Shivaun for about 20 years now, which is just wild to think about. We met at IBM, which is like 5 lifetimes ago for me. And we met when we were both working in the corporate world, and it was my kind of last little thing in the corporate world where I was deciding, is corporate for me or isn't corporate for me? And I was working in HR with Shivaun, and I was on like the business analysis side. And Shivaun and I have been lifelong friends since then. She has championed everything that I do. And I am the woman that I am in a big part to have this woman's support. So it is deeply humbling for me to have you on the podcast, Shivaun. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for saying that. Before we get started, you are going to be the first of a tradition that we're going to have on the podcast. Tell me, what's your coffee of choice?
So when I first met you, it was a mocha. But I'm pleased to say my taste has developed since then, and I've moved on to flat whites in the morning, no lid, and a brew bag in the afternoon.
I'm very impressed. Well done. You've made me very proud. So, Shivaun, you are a HR whiz, human resources whiz. You've been doing it for a long time at the corporate level, but you're also a small business owner, and you occupied small business in the hospitality space, and there's a clear synergy there. You're heading into a different era of your life where you're going to be doing consulting in HR for small businesses. So I've been trying to get you to do this for many, many years. So I'm like, yes, finally. We need you in the coffee industry because human resources is one of those things where people just get like it goes into the too hard basket. So give us a quick rundown on who you are, on your experience, and then we're going to ask the question, like, what is HR? You can go as detailed or not detailed as you want on who you are, but give us the general story.
Look, I think you've given away our age by saying we've known each other for 20 years in our corporate life. I'd like to suggest we're a decade younger, but we'll go with the truth now, not let the lies get in the way. But look, a big portion of my career has been at IBM in various HR roles, a lot of time spent in compensation and benefits, and then most notably as an HR leader of our consulting arm. And I've just resigned and left corporate life in the last 6 weeks. And it was the best decision I've ever made, just the right decision for me at the right time, to give me that time and space to sort of decide what's next. But the other big theme, throughout my adult life has been my roles in the hospitality industry, first jobs working at the racetrack. Still have a love of the races, and then moving on to having my own pizza shops with some awesome business partners. We're a multi-franchise holder with 3 different stores at one point, and was involved with that for nearly a decade with gourmet pizza shops on Sydney's North Shore, and considerable experience hands-on at the start, learning everything, to then sort of managing the business and the growth from there, and really seeing, obviously I had the benefit of a strong grounding in HR in a corporate sense that I could, bring to the small business world. And I think there's such a gap there, because I think people think, HR is the remit of a big corporation. But at the end of the day, in a small business, in a big corporation, your talent, your people, your human resources, whatever you want to call your teams, probably one of your biggest cost line items. So the same need exists in a way, but I had a really mixed and varied experience. I've done some consulting work in the medical space for some GP practices, some more generic, business consulting, but very much started as an HR slant. So some really varied experience here and overseas, and now it's time for something new.
Yeah, which is really exciting. And I jumped on the opportunity to say to you, this is the time, this is when it's going to happen. I'm not sure that you had a choice in it. So, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I was like, yes, this is happening now. So in this series, we're going to talk about the basics of human resources in coffee businesses. And we're going to have a particular slant on small business. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what HR is, or what human resources is. So tell us what it is and why people should care about it.
Look, as I said, I think people think HR and immediately sort of shy away from it. It's this big, important thing, and the big companies have it and they need it. But the reality is the people in most businesses, the most important asset, be it a one-man show to a, multinational, international employer. And it's everything to do with your people. And someone once described it to me is the key, role of HR, if you like, is to, and I always remembered this, attract, retain, and motivate. So ARM. And it really does capture for me everything about people and people management, talent management, human resources, whatever you want to call your team, big or small. Because at the end of the day, the importance is you need to attract the right staff at the right time. You want to retain them, because attrition is just the biggest, devil if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
And then you want to motivate them. You want to motivate them to deliver for your customers, deliver your brand philosophy, and deliver the vision for your business. So for me, it's a really simple, I can talk to you about process, policy, structure, compliance. I can talk your ear off, and I like that. But for me, to try and make it a little more simplistic, it's about attracting, retaining, and motivating employees. And from that, are the tentacles. You've got to retain them, you've got to pay them properly and do those different things. But you've got to keep them, aligned with your vision and what you want to achieve in your business as well. So for me, that's a really nice sort of acronym, true IBMer there, to sort of describe everything HR.
So you mentioned a word there that some people may not be familiar with, attrition. Although attrition is a huge problem in our industry. So tell people what attrition means and why they should start paying attention to what it looks like in their business.
Yeah, look, attrition at its simplest is employees leaving. And some attrition's healthy in any organisation, because you don't, you instantly think same people all the time, stale. You want diversity of thought and ideas and energy, particularly in, the cafe type environment. So some attrition is healthy and it brings new ideas, but out of control, uncontrollable attrition, if you like, and the wrong attrition where you're losing your best people has a huge impact, because come back to, you then have to attract new people. They then have to get on with the team. You have to train them up. And you think probably the most common skill, that of a barista in this industry, whilst it's easily transferable from one place to the next, the way you do things, the meticulous nature of your, start of day procedure, the flow within, if you're a, CBD high flow store, you might do things differently. You've got two baristas at the machine. You've got one, your barista takes orders, you're on Uber Eats, and just, managing that and scaling up. And if you're in a small business and you're doing all of it, wearing one of your many hats, you're then off to be the CFO. You've then got to reinvest in training and get it right. So attrition's important to know about it and to understand it, and forget the label, right? The fancy corporate label. What it's about is the turnover of your staff. So you want some turnover, but you want to get it right, and you want a healthy, balance of new and old and up and coming.
What do you think is the key of finding that balance? Because we really struggle with it in the coffee industry, managing the attrition rate, particularly since the pandemic. It became something where, especially with the next generation, Gen Z, coming into the market, they really didn't want to have to put up with the same kinds of environments. What do you think is the thing?
I think it's about understanding your people or your team's why do they do what they do, and what do they want out of the experience. I think and I saw this in the hospitality industry. I mean, we would generally employ people university age. For them, it was a casual job. It's just money, or is it money to pay rent? Is it so it's finding that right balance of why people are coming to work. And you might find in your, for your baristas there, that is their chosen career path, and it's something more than just a casual job or just income. But trying to build that concept of employee engagement, thinking about the culture of the organization. For me, it's very much what's someone's why. And think about yourself and your experiences when you were perhaps a casual employee, be it in the hospitality industry or otherwise. How did you perform? How did you behave? How did you treat the experience? Because at the end of the day, that's now the training you have for where you are. And how do you not know that the people in your stores, your cafes, aren't going to be the next generation of business owners? And there's a balance there to be offering them what they need, but to be commercially viable and have a profitable business for yourself as well.
I love that. Find out your employees' why, so that you can better understand who they are and why they're there and how you can keep them there. I really love that. That's not something that I've ever been asked by any of the people that I worked for when I was a barista, so that's fantastic. In the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about the role that culture plays in HR. So join us in the next episode with Shivaun. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.